All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Reyes Reflection Podcast. As usual, free to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Like, comment, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And be sure to follow me on the socials, TikTok and Instagram at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Now, on to the introduction of my guest. Let me start with this. There are so many things in life that are rare. For example, a solar and lunar eclipse, seeing Bigfoot, sliding into someone's DM and them actually responding. That's exactly what happened, how I got my guest on the show, okay? I just slid in her DMs, asked her to join, and she said she would love to. She is on the come up, a talented singer and songwriter. Her EP, To You, is available. She auditioned for The Voice and is the self-proclaimed SpongeBob queen.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, here's a little soundbite for her. Making her debut on the Reyes Reflection Podcast, the stunning Domenica Coka. Welcome to the pod.
Oh my gosh, thank you for that intro. That was so great and so sweet. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm very glad that you agreed to join. And again, if my introduction is any indication, this is going to be a blast. So I appreciate you doing this because I know that you were squeezing me in during your busy schedule and other interviews. But like I said, I got my popcorn here. I'm ready to go. It's gonna be a fun interview. So circling back to the SpongeBob Queen, I'm gonna ask you some questions. And we're going to see how you do.
Oh my gosh.
Okay?
I'm so scared.
All right. Let's start with an easy one, okay?
Okay.
Where does SpongeBob work?
He works at the Krusty Krab.
Okay. Yep. What is Plankton's first name?
Sheldon.
Oh, okay. I thought that one was going to be a little bit of a stumper, but no. Okay, let's see if this one is. Okay, you ready?
I'm honestly nervous.
Because the self-proclaimed SpongeBob Queen, yeah. I mean, who is the leader of the Jelly Spotters?
Kevin.
Yes, Kevin the Cucumber. All right, that's all right. Now this one, I find it hilarious.
Okay.
What are the names of Patrick's fake parents?
Marty and Marty, I'm scared.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm blanking on her name.
Janet
but
and Marty.
I know
Yeah, you were.
Janet and Marty. I knew because I just Marty, I'm scared. I'll hear that.
It's like
man,
it's
I stumped that one, but that's okay.
He goes, Janet, Marty.
Oh, Marty. That's what I was trying to. I was like, I hear it, and all I could hear was Marty. Who are you people?
Yes, exactly. All right, I love this one.
Okay.
What was the name on the trophy of the Great Snail Racing Cup?
Oh shoot. Like the winner?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a spaghetti, but it's like a type of pasta.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I feel so like under pressure.
You're doing great.
Tortellini, like Squidward tortellini.
You got it.
I have to say it in the voice so that I can remember it.
Hey, that works.
Yeah.
So with that being said, then, in your best impersonation, can you say "my leg" like the guy does?
Okay. My leg.
That was
my leg.
that was really good. I always would laugh because you just heard the audio, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
So you would just hear this guy screaming "my leg." Those shows that we grew up with, I feel like they were just above par.
Yeah.
SpongeBob, Drake and Josh, all those Disney Channel shows, those were just a vibe.
I just am so grateful that that's what I grew up watching. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I am definitely the type of person that will still watch whatever is on Disney Channel or Disney Plus, Nickelodeon, like all now, because sometimes it's just hard to figure out what, there's just nothing on. You know what I mean? And I've, like, found some they're, like, cheesy, but they're cute, and I'm like, "Okay, this is still fine," but I think nothing compares to what we grew up watching, so
And the truth is I'm very difficult to watch any show with friends,
okay.
family, what have you. Very difficult to watch shows with because I like the mindless, goofy shows like that.
Yeah,
Not I like nothing against drama shows, but for
yeah,
me, I struggle with those type of shows because if I miss episode 2 and then I'm watching episode 8, there's so much that I missed and I'm like, how
yeah,
did how did they get to Europe? How did they do this?
yeah,
And I just don't know. Whereas like with SpongeBob and shows like that, you're just
mhm.
mindlessly watching, and
Totally.
there's no there may be a new character here and there, but it's like I can miss 8 to 10 episodes, and there's still SpongeBob, there's still Patrick, there's still Mr. Krabs, there's still Drake,
Yeah,
there's still Josh. So I'm more into that cup of tea. That's more
that's
me
fair.
personally.
That's
Yeah,
fair. I do like dramas. I do like to, like, sit down and, like, binge watch a 10 episodes, like, miniseries or whatever.
yeah.
But there's I mean, that I honestly, like, shows like even Friends, is a perfect example because I think it's because 'cause I've watched it so many times, and New Girl's another one where, like, I
I
can
love
just
New
have that
Girl.
playing in the background. Yeah, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
so great. And so I think that those are also they fall into it, but I think it's because I've watched it
yeah.
that, like, I can say that.
And it's like a safety net. Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
I was always told I was the perfect combination of Schmidt, Winston, and Nick.
Oh my
Like
gosh, that's
so.
a very high compliment.
I like to think. I like to think so. I like to say so. So I want to transition into this. I said this off camera. So did people call you Coca Cola growing up?
Yes, I think when I was growing up, I at first it was kind of like I don't know why they thought it was like funny to like insult me with that.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I guess I was just a little bit smarter that I was like, yeah, I am a billionaire and I do own Coca-Cola. And they would stop because they realized that it wasn't affecting me. And I was like, "Oh, how is this like an insult?" Like, of course, it's just spelled differently. But I'm not affiliated with Coca-Cola. I've always said that if I were to ever become successful, it would be so funny if Pepsi would try to like endorse
Oh,
me.
totally.
Because I'd be like, "Do you know my last name? Like Coca-Cola. I have to work with Coca-Cola." So that would just be really interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was just like a silly joke and it happened maybe I was 1st grade or something like that, and then it just stopped. It was not a big thing at all.
Good to know that I have the mindset of a first grader.
Yeah, well
Uh, no, but that would be a serious bidding war on behalf of Pepsi to try to
right?
obtain the rights to your name. I think they would pay top dollar for that because
My
look at
gosh.
that. You could totally put Coca Cola under the under the bridge there. Um, from a semi reliable source,
Uh-huh.
I heard your birthday's in November. Is this
It
true?
is. It
Okay.
is.
Are you a Sagittarius or are you the other one?
Oh, I'm gonna be honest and say I've not been an like, astronomy girly, not at all,
Neither am
but I
I.
know that I'm a Sagittarius.
I'm not a astronomy dude, but I know I'm a Sagittarius. Like,
Nice.
yep.
I
So
have no idea what that means. I just know from friends are like, "Oh my gosh, you're a Sagittarius," and I'm like, "Okay."
yeah, I've never been into it. I've had friends that have been like, "Oh, the rising moon," and to me, I'm like, I don't really. I like to live my
No.
life with believing in whatever's good is in front of me, and if it's
Yeah.
not, and I learn from those mistakes. But not, I'm not gonna talk to this person because my
Right,
stars
our
or my
signs
moon.
align. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's really no offense to people who actually believe that, but I find it really silly, but
I get it. You and I are in the same boat. So November what?
November 30th on the last day of November.
Okay, November 28th. Good.
Oh
Good.
my
Cool. Cool.
gosh, we're
Yeah.
so close.
Yeah. Look at that. All right. Semi reliable source was correct. Okay. I also saw that you are a dog person.
I
Is this
am a
true?
dog person. I
Okay.
love dogs.
You do. You do.
Yes.
What about dogs and their personality is something that really you gravitate towards?
So I think part of it is because my dad loves dogs and I was and my mom loves them from afar. And so I think growing up, I my dad would take me to like any sort of event that had dogs or any place where dogs were involved because like we both shared that common love.
Mm.
And I don't know, I think it's the fact that you get home and they're, like, waiting for you. It's this unconditional love that they have for you, and
Right.
they're smiling, and they're just so cute and fluffy. But I don't have a dog, which is really sad.
That is.
Um, yeah, which is, like, really unfortunate, but a lot of my coworkers will bring their dogs to the office, and I'm like, "Thank you, Jesus, like, I needed this," because I truly believe that I know that dogs can be therapy dogs, but, like, dogs in general bring this presence that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I needed this," you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just, like, a comfort thing, but they're just I just love them, they're so cute.
And I agree with you because whether you're going away for a week or you're going to just get
Yeah.
the mail, when
Yeah.
you walk in that door, they're happy. And I think I saw something where someone was like, "Do you realize why dogs live shorter?" And the reason why his theory was
Okay.
because they live every moment to the fullest. And so I know, right? Isn't that completely heartbreaking? But it's such a rewarding experience,
Yeah.
and to me it's just rich to be around a dog because
Mhm.
I used to volunteer at a humane society and would
Love that.
literally bathe the dogs. I was the only one that would be willing to do that. Yeah, I know, right? People thought I was insane, maybe a little bit. I mean, but you have to be crazy to have a good time. But I
Totally.
I would wash the dogs, and there was this one three-legged dog, and he just was so happy with life, and I'm like,
Oh.
and there was a blind or one with only one eye, and I'm like, these dogs don't even know they have any crippling injury or anything like that, but they're so happy and pure, and it's just it's love, and like it's unconditional love at its
Yeah,
purest. So I
totally.
definitely am a big dog person. So I like that we're two kindred spirits in that regard.
Nice.
I think I saw a video of you singing in Spanish.
Yes.
Are you fluent in Spanish?
Yes.
You are.
That was
Okay.
my first language. I actually learned English through television, which my mom would like to say it's from SpongeBob. So, I think that that is just, like, lives, like, inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So because you grew up in Ecuador, right?
So I was born in Miami.
Okay.
My both of my parents are from Ecuador, and they expected so I have a brother, his name is Mateo, and I live with him. Him and I are, just a year apart, and so my parents had us in like, to be born in Miami, and we were gonna live the rest of our lives back in Ecuador because 97% of our family lives back there, and that was just, like, typical, like, a lot of our family members would have their kids in the States and then bring them back, and, because like, we would travel a lot back and forth,
Yeah.
and then that I mean, this goes along into, like, my whole like, my family story and, like, my testimony and my brother's testimony and, like, all this stuff, but when my brother was diagnosed with leukemia at 3 and a half is what brought us back to the States. Um, but yeah, like I it's so crazy to think that I could have totally been a different person if I would have lived my whole life in Ecuador. I don't
Right.
know if my love for music would be as prominent as it is now, or I don't know if I would have like yeah, I truly don't I think I just would have been a very different person. And I don't know if I would have liked that version of me, to be honest. So yeah, I'm very grateful to have been raised here around a very different culture, but I am so proud of my culture that I'm, like, just sprinkling in a little bit of spice in every community that I, like, step into and stuff, so, yeah,
I mean, you're totally right, and I think I don't even know what's the word to say, but it's like everything's supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen. So the fact
absolutely.
that you went on that path, and like you just said, you probably would not have had this love for music that you have now. And you're right, your life could have been completely different. And
Mhm.
not saying that it's related whatsoever, but I moved. I want to say like 20 times before I was even the age of 10. Just
Really?
yeah. So and I think that has helped me be who I am now because I can talk to literally anybody. I can
Yeah.
and find some sort of common ground with anybody. Which prior to doing this, I worked with kids for 10 years, and that's what helped me get to the
Wow,
level of every kid because I was
totally.
able to understand certain backgrounds of just every type of avenue, whether it was living in a very low income community or sleeping on a friend's couch for a while or
Mhm.
not having heat, not having hot water, things like that. So there was a lot of times where I was able to bond with certain individuals and gain that sort of um, trust, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
of hey,
totally.
listen, like I'm not. This is a judgment free zone. Like you are not going to be judged here.
Mm.
And I also have Spanish heritage. I
Yeah.
do not speak it whatsoever though. So I
Why?
listen. The most I could say is hola o lo sientos. So and I guess that
Oh
goes
my
to show you.
gosh, that's so
I
sad.
guess that goes to show you my interactions with people. If Los Santos is one of them, that means I'm sorry, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's lo siento. It's not plural, but
Oh,
it's
see,
okay.
look. I'm getting a lesson right here, right? No, so we grew up. So my father was an illegal immigrant, and he
Okay.
converted. Well, first he had a work visa, and then he
Okay.
got his citizenship. But and he couldn't really speak a lick of English.
Mm.
And so when we were growing up, I could speak Spanish, excuse me,
Mhm.
better than I could or
Yeah.
can. And then when my folks split,
Mm.
we weren't seeing my father as much, so it was almost like how do I say this? This is going to sound poor, and I'm not trying to make it sound this way. There wasn't a need to speak it anymore, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah.
So I didn't have to learn it as much as I
Yeah.
was. And then and I only saw my dad maybe, I want to say, I don't know, twice a month.
Yeah.
So it was really something in which it was more so of like, and at that point it's like, hola,
Yeah.
¿cómo estás?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, we're just gonna go do something that we don't need to like play. My dad was always big into soccer, so it was always like we're just gonna go to the park and play soccer. So that
Yeah.
way we didn't have to have that sort of,
Yeah.
um, I guess, interaction. But you touched upon your brother Mateo.
Mhm.
I do want to circle into that.
Absolutely.
Your best friend.
Yeah.
You moved to Miami for his treatments.
Yes.
I just want to say he is such a strong individual
Mm.
to be able to kick cancer's butt 3 times.
Mm.
I think I saw that. It shows his strength, his willingness to fight, which is just truly commendable. So
Thank
talk to
you.
me about that relationship with him
Yeah.
and the impact of his diagnosis and what it meant to you and your family growing up.
Well, growing up, like I mentioned previously, my brother and I are just a year apart. So when he was first diagnosed, he was 3.5 and I was 2.5. So, of course, I am not very well versed in the world still. And growing up, my parents never used the word cancer in our households. It was just Mateo needed treatment. I never thought it was out of the ordinary that my mom would pick me up from school and we would go to the hospital like right after. That was just very normal, a normal routine. It obviously affected any after school programs or activities that I would do or hang out with friends just because I couldn't risk also getting sick to not get my brother sick and all these things, but I never complained. My mom always loved to say that I was a very happy kid, and I would like to say the same. Like, I look back at my childhood, and none of that is, something that's been, like, a damper on my life because it truly has formed me individually in the person that I am today, as well as obviously my brother and my family as a strong unit and all of that, but yeah, and then when he was diagnosed for the second time, still I'm like I think he was 7 years old and I was like 6. So and it's still the same leukemia, and still, like, nothing different. We are still going through chemo, through radiation, but not identified as cancer. And I think one of the earliest memories I have of questioning kind of what type of treatments or whatever my brother whatever sickness he had was when I would see the St. Jude commercials on TV, and I would see, like, a kid who was bald, and my mom would try to, like, flip the channels as fast as possible because she didn't want because those commercials can be really heavy,
Oh yeah, they're gut
because
wrenching.
oh, yeah, absolutely, and it's talking about really real stories that are, like, happening in kids' lives, and it's so unfortunate, um and so I kind of questioned it, but I think I was too afraid to, like, actually ask the question, and I'm grateful that I didn't, but when Mateo was diagnosed for the 3rd time, he was 10 going to be 11, and I was 9 gonna be 10. And that was, I think, when my eyes were open to the reality of everything, because I not only saw life a little bit differently. I'm a little bit older, like all this stuff, but I think I was so present compared to other times. My parents, as much as they wanted me to be involved, also understood that I was a child, obviously. Um, and yeah, I think that how do I say this? The need, or like the urgency of the third time of his cancer returning, it was very obvious. And him having us having to, we were currently living in North Carolina at the time, and he needed a transplant that was at a hospital, at Duke Hospital, which was like 2 hours from where we were living at the time. And going there, you meant that I had to leave my school, I had to be homeschooled, I had to be all these things. So my life changed, his life changed. We lived in Durham for like 9 months, and it was like this whole crazy just journey, because there were so many things that happened that that would be just like a whole hour of like all of the things that happened that I would have to say. But a lot of things that the doctors never expected to actually miraculously happened, and I give all the credit to God, because I think one of the most special things is my faith. And I'm very grateful to have had such a personal, not only it being something that I was my upbringing, that my parents were very, very involved in church and like included us to be a part of that, but it became such a personal decision for me to like have a personal relationship with God, and being able to lean on Him to be my strength at such a young age too, also forced me to grow up a little bit. And yeah, it was just like it was, looking back, obviously in hindsight, I'm like, "Wow, I cannot believe God worked and intervened in all these, like, situations that I would've, that just, like, kind of pass like, go through our heads, because it's the little details that I think matter the most to me. We're like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that." Um, but I'm also like, I look back and I would not change a single thing. Like, even though so much of that was heavy and dark, and the doctors had told my parents that my brother was gonna die. I obviously didn't know, because I was my parents were not gonna tell me that. But, like, that was, like, so detrimental and so heavy. I know that every single person in my family would say I wouldn't change a thing. So,
Well,
yeah.
it helped your family stay connected.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like traumas can either distance or rally. And
Mhm.
it goes to show, even one, that your parents use God as a good foundation for your upbringing, because that
Mhm.
kind of helped you stabilize. Whereas when
Absolutely.
there's a time where people are questioning life,
Yeah.
because there's so many times, even myself, and not, it's not the same thing, but my mother had an illness, and there were times where I'm
Mhm.
a kid and I'm just like, why, like, what is going
Yeah.
on? And we didn't grow up in that stable environment that you had, so there were a lot of times where I was questioning things, and I was
Mhm.
almost, how do I say this, like, I was like angry with the world.
Totally. I was too.
Yeah, and I wish I had that. I wish I had that
Yeah.
stability and things like that. But circling back to you, it really helped you stay confident in your faith, and you didn't
Absolutely.
shake, and and there might have been times where you were reeling, but you stayed strong. It's almost like a palm tree. You know how the palm tree can kind of keep
Yeah.
going like this, but somehow, some way, it stays strong. That's kind of like one of those things where it's like you just stayed strong, and that's kudos to your parents as well. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
is, it
Yeah.
is.
I will say that there were many times, I think one of the most beautiful things about, having a personal relationship with God is that He invites questions. He invites, just like He wants us to, like, be like, "Ah, I'm so angry, like, why do good things, I mean, bad things happen to good people? Like, why," like, all these things, right?
Oh, I've
And
asked that.
I asked that so many times. I was
Yep.
like, "Why my brother? Why 3 times?" My brother would look out the window and be like, "The world is mocking me. Why am I going through this?" And he's 10. Like, he's questioning things that he shouldn't be questioning, and and God was faithful, and he was I just, like, I think about those things and I'm like, even though a lot of the times I would be left in silence, his silence was never left undone, like, there were things that were happening, and I just didn't know, and then I would see them unfold, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this whole time I thought you were so far away from me. You were actually interceding, and I can see it all right here in front of me." And so, I think that's something that's so beautiful is that we don't know all the answers, and and the and and the healing doesn't always have to come on earth, and I think sometimes we forget that even if, God forbid, my brother were to get leukemia again, oh my gosh, that gave me chills. God forbid that were to happen. I'm not gonna lose faith, and I'm not gonna lose sight of the fact that God is going to be in that again, and I love that. I love having that stability, like you said, but I think it also just goes back to the fact that, like, he has never let me down, you know?
And
And the
and he never
definition
will.
that, like I'm sorry?
And he never will.
No, and he never will, and it's one of those things where, like, to in order to understand that, you have to truly understand God's character and who he is, to be able to grasp why things happen to on this earth and stuff, so
I definitely can relate, and I can relate in both regards because I struggled with it growing up. So as I said, my folks split very young.
Mhm,
My father struggled with alcoholism,
mhm,
and it just was evident. Like it wasn't hidden. It wasn't hidden. It was very obvious, and so
right,
there was a very combustible element in my household in the
mm,
sense of hearing glass
yeah,
break at 1 in the morning and that just being a normal occurrence. And then the only father figure I had was my grandfather.
mm,
And unfortunately, my grandfather passed away when I was about 7.5.
wow,
And not to like garnish sympathy or what have you, but this is still one of like the most heartbreaking days of my life. So my grandfather and I, we shared a room. I'm a middle of five brothers. My grandfather and I, we shared a
mhm,
room, and it was the basement, and but it was like a finished part of
mhm,
it. And I'll never forget it. The day that he passed away, his bed was on one side and my bed was on the other, and we just talked about anything, sports,
yeah,
who I had a crush on in second
yeah,
grade, like it was
yeah,
like, or a celebrity crush or whatever. And he's given me all his wisdom,
mhm,
and that night that and I would always say like grandpa, and he would say yeah, and he would like, it was a call and respond type of relationship at night. And because it didn't matter what time, if my mom said I had to go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, he would go lay in the room with me so that way
oh,
I wasn't alone. And that night that he passed away was the single most alone moment that I think I've ever felt
mhm,
in my life, even in adulthood. Like we've all had losses, we've all had trials and tribulations,
absolutely,
but I think that was the because I didn't understand, and I said grandpa, and I didn't get a response, and I
mm,
think it was just something in which I was like, why, and like
mm,
you said, I questioned, and admittingly, I turned to anger and
yeah,
aggression, and because we grew up with my mother being heavily religious and believing
okay,
in God, but my father not. My father would call it hokey pokey and or hocus pocus, and would almost mock it when my mother would kind of
mm,
would bring it up or bring us to it. So that's another thing where it's like I have this
yeah,
scale in my life of, well, I'm trying to please my physical father
mhm,
and my physical mother. At the same time, I do want to have a relationship with the heavenly Father. So
totally,
I just struggled big time with that because this it was a constant limbo.
yeah,
And but anyways, so with that, I really did turn into just like you said, questioning, and I never really understood that that was welcomed, if that makes sense, because
yeah,
when I was younger, it was almost like, hey, but I prayed for it. Why isn't it coming true? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
totally, yeah,
And then it hit me, and somebody told me I had a pastor growing up, like a mentor, a teen pastor growing up, and he
yeah,
said, just because you pray for it doesn't mean that it's given to you. And he and
right,
and he and he was a father as well, and he said, when my kids ask for candy at 9 p.m. at
Yeah.
night, am I going to give it to them? And I said no. And he goes, because I have what's my their best interest
Best
in my
interest,
in my
yeah.
heart. That's the
Yeah,
same thing with God. And
same.
it's just so crazy because despite everything that I've gone through, as I said, moving, loss, seeing abuse of substance,
Mm.
it was something in which that has helped me. And I could have gone down a really bad path had I not had those mentors and those
Yeah.
teen leaders and things like that, which have helped circle back into just having some sort of stability in life, even though it wasn't a rock hard foundation that other people have had, or as like when people who are growing up with God in their life
Mhm.
have at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's never too late. It's never too late.
It's
Even
never too late.
even like on the cross, the thief next to Jesus acknowledged Jesus, and he said, "You're going to join me today." So it's never too
I
late.
Oh my gosh, I have the best story with actually that. I had a friend who, unfortunately passed away
I'm sorry.
when I was a sophomore in college. We went to high school together. He was like I went to a very small private Christian school, but he was the bad boy of our school. He would do things that, like, in public schools people would think is silly, because they're like, everyone does that. You know what I mean? Like, that
Yeah,
kinda
yeah.
not that I'm, promoting it like that. He was doing things that he probably shouldn't have. But he came from such a sweet family, and I lost contact with him because he was no longer attending our school our senior year. It might have been I just remember I was in college when this happened, and, I ran into him randomly 2 weeks before he passed. Um, and his name is Victor. He will always hold a very special place in my heart. I ran into him and he was very much against, like, coming to church and, didn't want anything to do with God, precisely for things like bad things happen to good people, and, like, I'm trying to understand that. And I didn't know when I saw him at church, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, what are you doing here?" I was so excited because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is such good news, like, to see you at church," like, all this stuff, and he was just, like, a completely different person. He was so full of life and so happy, and he was like, "Yeah, well, I'm starting to go to church with my family," like, all this stuff, so sweet, and I was just so excited, like, I just, like, remember grabbing his shoulders, and I was like, "I'm so happy to see you. It's been way too long, but I'm just so happy to see you," and, um, I think about it, and I found out his story when the funeral happened of, like, how he came to, like, personally just be like, "Okay, I'm done with this, like, I want to actually know who Jesus is, like, personally." And I had heard that and this will always stick with me for the rest of my life. He was asked the question, "When you go to heaven, like, who is a person that you would like to meet?" Like, or who's someone that has passed, that is no longer living, that you would love to ask a question or, like, have a conversation with? And he literally said, the man that was on the cross next to Jesus that said, "Will you remember me when you go to paradise?" And Jesus was like, "You will be with me." Like,
Yep.
and I was like, I've never thought about wanting to have a conversation with the guy on the cross that was next to Jesus and, like, wanna know how he felt when Jesus, like, said those things to him. And that will just always stick with me because I was like, that oh my gosh. And, unfortunately, like, him passing was so, so hard on so many of our classmates, and just because it was like, man, like, he was at his best moment, you know?
Right.
And and it's so hard to grasp that, but at the same time, like, he is rejoicing with Jesus, and I'm like, he's having his best life right now, like, he's there, and even though here on earth, like, we mourn and we're sad, like, knowing that he is in a much better place than we are, I'm like, amazing, like, so great,
Yeah.
all that stuff, but, um, like, that story just, like, will always remind me of anytime someone asks me, "Who's, like, someone that's not alive anymore that you would like to, like, talk to?" And I'm like, "This person."
Well,
And then I will always credit back to Victor because that was just the best answer ever.
that's a phenomenal answer. I didn't even think about that. I just
Yeah,
remember that
yeah,
it was never too late because even
never
him
too late.
in his last minute was like clock was gonna strike midnight, but he and Jesus welcomed him in. And I
Yeah,
think that's what it is. I think if you have your heart open to it and you welcome him,
Mhm.
you're that kind of helps the eternal salvation.
Yeah.
I want to transition into this because you talked a little bit about high school and things like that.
Yeah.
Other than singing, what other interests do you have? Did you play sports in high school or things like that? Or
Yeah, I was a dancer growing up.
okay,
That doesn't mean that I was good. My mom's dream was for me to be a ballerina, and I hated it, like, absolutely hated it. I think it was because I also am the youngest of so I have, I mean, most of my siblings are half siblings, but I'm the youngest of 8, and I have 6 brothers. So I grew up and my brother, Mateo, that I was talking about earlier, he was very involved in, like, what we would like to categorize as boy things, like video games and, like, playing soccer and doing karate and, like, all these things, and I think that I was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be one of the guys," which I totally was not. I think that it's just because I think that has a lot to do with just the fact that this is, like, touching a different subject, but, um, there was a lot of attention on my brother, and I think that I was like, "Oh, so I kinda have to be like my brother to receive this attention," but that was, like, a
right.
whole different thing. Um, but I hated dance. I was a figure skater at one point in my life. I wish that I would have continued doing that because I think that that would have been so cool. I would have never done, like, Olympic figure skating, but just to have that as a hobby. Um, I tried to do soccer, ended up not being able to do that, not because I wasn't good, it's just, like, I think I was just too scared. And then, but I loved it because I love the women's team, the US women's team.
Yep.
I think Mallory, well, now she's Mallory Swanson, is I want to be friends with her so badly. She's amazing. Um, but I did so my high school was very much very, like, kind of High School Musical vibes where you either had to pick fine arts or sports because they unless you were very much needed, you were allowed to do both. Um, but I did, sand volleyball my freshman year,
Oh, that's
and then
fun.
it's so fun,
I love
and then my
volleyball.
sophomore year, yeah, same. Not very great either, but, like, whatever. My sophomore year, they made me pick if I wanted to do musical theater or sports, and I was like, I'm gonna do musical theater, like, I'm not picking sports." But I will say I did do karate for, like, 4 years, and I do have my black belt. So once I got my black belt, I was like, "Peace, I'm outta here."
Wait, so you're a black belt?
Yeah.
All right, note to self:
Yeah, never mess with me.
never mess with you. Yes, note to
Yeah,
self.
no.
Okay, so I was gonna just simply ask you, have you ever broken the board?
Oh,
And
yeah, totally.
here I hear that you're a black belt. Okay, that's
Yeah.
slightly intimidating, but no, that's
You'll see me in person and be like, "Oh, why should I be scared of you? Because 'Cause I'm quite small, so it's okay."
yeah, yeah. Well,
But you never know. Like, I could just, like, you know.
hey, that could be the scariest thing in general. Like, it could be, oh my
Yeah,
goodness, here's somebody that's so tiny, but yet
yeah.
they can break me in half. So I mean,
Yeah, exactly, you never know. Oh,
yeah,
and I do Pilates now, so I'm, like, still being athletic. I'm
yeah,
still
that's
yeah,
still active. That's still active. I wish I could remain active in sports that I love, but I've had too many injuries and I can't.
fair.
So, and plus, I'm also not a polarizing individual as well. I'm only 5'8" on my license, 5'7" in real life. So,
Hey.
but hey, uh, because of that, I thought I was going to be playing in the NBA. I did play a year of college basketball, so you know
Oh
what?
my gosh, that's
I'm going to give
great.
myself flowers there,
Yeah.
but that's not my. Nope, not even, not now. Now I could never. I could never. I coached a youth team a few years back, and I tried to play with them, and it was strictly because I was like
Bigger.
stronger that I
Yeah.
was able to like
Cream
maneuver
them.
and win, but skill wise, they could mop the floor with me. I think anybody could. But transitioning from Florida to
Mm.
Nashville was when did that happen? Because you went to college in Nashville, right?
I did. So, actually, we went from Florida to North Carolina to then Nashville.
Okay.
So, I would say a good chunk of my childhood, like 11 years of my childhood was in Charlotte,
Oh wow.
and that's where, like, ending of elementary school, middle school, high school, when I was a sophomore in college is when my parents moved back to Florida,
So
because
your
it was, like
folks are in Florida,
mhm,
but you and your brother are in
in Nashville,
Nashville.
and so I came to Nashville 2017. I went to Belmont University, and I loved it. I graduated in 2021, got my bachelor's of science, like, did the whole 9 yards, graduated in the midst of COVID, which was a bummer because I didn't get to walk across the stage, but it's okay. I pulled my mask down, waved at the camera, and got my diploma, so
This is
thank
my
you.
this is my clap for you walking the stage.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. If it makes you feel any better, I didn't walk a stage at all, and it's
Oh.
not because of COVID. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
So your folks still? How far is the drive from Florida to Nashville?
I don't drive. That's way too long. That's like 17 hours.
No, it's not.
Uh,
It can't
oh my
be.
gosh, it's like 15 but like stops, like
You
that's like
think
17
so?
hours. Yeah,
I
I guess. Cause like from Charlotte to no to Miami
okay.
was 12
Really?
and Nashville to Orlando was 11. So yeah, 15.
I'm trying to think. So I'm on the East Coast.
Okay.
I'm up in Mass,
Okay.
and I drove one time to Myrtle Beach
Oh,
in
why?
12 hours. Well, we were road
It's
trip. We were road tripping, and we thought
it's
that it
Dirty
was.
Myrtle for a reason.
Yeah, first of all, I had an amazing experience.
That's great. I did too when I was younger because like, I got to
Okay,
do all the fun stuff, but, like, now as an adult, I'm like, "Ew."
yeah. I was young. I was young when I went, but it was a good time. And
Yeah,
I've also, in fairness, there was a time where I feel like guys, it's different. Maybe you could relate, and maybe I'm just off base, but I feel like there's a level of almost invincibility that we have
yeah,
when we're younger. So like in my younger days, like I said, I didn't finish college. It just which is okay because
yeah.
I always got in trouble for talking too much, and now it's my job, and now I get paid to do it. So
Yeah,
I'm doing something right, right?
yeah.
Uh, but anyways, I have like one time my senior year of high school, junior year, one of those years. Totally bad. I do not recommend this whatsoever.
Oh, no.
I took all the money out of my bank account. I told my mom that I was staying with my friend for 2 weeks. Him and I, because he was a year above me. Okay, so I was a junior. He just graduated. And he was already 18. Him and I bought like Peter Pan buses and like those Amtrak passes, and we went like out west. And like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I don't recommend it as a young staying at like Motel Sixes and like
Oh my
Super Eights
gosh.
and
See, that I was not that kid. I am such a rule follower that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's alcohol at this party, I'm not 21, like, I gotta get out of here."
really okay,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, yeah, I didn't drink until I was 21. I don't really love it either, so it's like, I'm like, "No." I'm a very much rule follower. If my parents oh my gosh, if my parents would have found out that I did that, I think I'd be dead. Like, I don't
You're like
think
I'd be 6 feet in the ground. There's no way they
yeah,
would. Yeah.
there's no way that I'd just get away with that. Are you kidding? Also, my mom would have questioned me, 2 weeks at your friend's house? Absolutely not. Like,
So the reason why I got away with it, one, I was the middle of five.
okay,
Two, so I my oldest two brothers like were you. They were rule
okay,
followers. Okay, so they were.
okay.
If mom said curfew was at 9, they were there at 8:45.
Right.
So because of that, my mother was like, "Oh, Nathaniel's gonna be the same way,"
Yeah.
and so I was really bad. I was really bad. I'll admit that. My high school years, I was really bad. Like I would pull the whole "I'm too tired to drive home" and just and be able to stay out with friends and but you learn from those experiences, and now
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
sitting here saying that that is wrong, and I do not commend it. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
right. We agree with that. That is wrong. Now that I'm
Yes.
older and a little bit more wiser, you don't do that. No, but in all seriousness, you're right. It was that's borderline dangerous. That,
Oh my gosh, yeah. You're
but
still a minor too. Like, that's crazy.
yeah, but I was under the care of my 18-year-old best friend.
18-year-old
So
friend,
yeah.
yeah, sure.
All right,
Also another guy who probably didn't know what he was doing.
all right. The eye roll and the facetiousness is definitely noticeable. Back onto you. Who are some of your inspirations musically? Because
Great
I'm
question.
getting like a Tori Kelly vibe.
Oh, thank you. I love it.
Eh,
Growing up, it was definitely Christina Aguilera was like my icon.
Okay.
I loved her. I was probably way too young to be listening to her music,
Yeah.
but um somehow I got away with it. My mom purchased her strip tour DVD, like concert DVD, and I would watch that religiously all the time. And
Okay.
so that's the song, one of her hits, and that was Come On Over,
Oh
Baby,"
yeah, I
that
know that
song.
song.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Do you want me to sing
but
it? No, I can't sing.
yeah,
No.
just kidding. And the growls that Christina would do, I would mimic them at a very young age, like,
Yep.
just wanted to be Christina Aguilera, but oh my gosh, Christina Aguilera is Christina Aguilera for a reason. She's insane, and I love everything that she's done. I mean, she did Reflection and Mulan, and Hurt by her was one of my favorite songs ever. And now she did a Spanish album. And so, or like a year or 2021, I think it was when she did a Spanish album, or 2022. Well, I don't remember. But it was very, very well. Um, like lyrics are incredible, production is incredible, and Christina Aguilera is just Christina Aguilera. But she was a huge one, and then grew up with a lot of, like, very soulful, jazzy people. Stevie Wonder, Tony Bennett, Michael Bublé was, like, a staple in my household.
Really?
Oh my
His
gosh,
his
yeah,
his Christmas album is
oh,
goated to me. That's me.
yeah,
I can listen to
um
that all the time.
Yeah, Me and Mrs. Jones, was the song 6-year-old Domenica would be singing, and that's about an affair. So, like, that is not appropriate. But like, my whole family, we'd sing it, and my parents would always be like, "This is not a good song." Like, they would tell us the message behind it and
Yeah.
the lesson out of it, but, like, we would sing it on the way to church. Like, it was just so funny because it's so pure. There's nothing the intentions that is happening
Not
behind
at
that,
that. Yeah,
but,
not at that age. I
you
mean,
know
you're just
exactly.
harmlessly
You're
singing
s
along.
exactly, and so, another people like Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, big, like, mama voices for sure, but I think as I was growing up and, like, discovering, like, my own sound, I discovered Tori Kelly when I was a freshman in high school, so, like, 2014, I think.
Yep.
Um 2013, 2014, and she was just like, "Oh my gosh, like, I am obsessed with you." I loved everything. I love the fact that she played guitar herself, and, um, I just loved her soulful voice, and I think everyone kind of I don't know if I discovered her through the Vine that everyone knows her from, but yeah, I think it was probably just Spotify, and I just, like, loved everything that she wrote. I was starting to understand songwriting a little bit differently. I was like, "Oh, this is like people are telling stories,"
Yep.
and I love very conversational songwriting, and so she's a huge one. Ariana Grande is another really big, influence because, like, she is just her and Lady Gaga and Tori Kelly are probably the best vocalists there are in this day and age, I think, personally. Um, but Ariana Grande, I think from watching Victorious, I was like, "I love you." I went through a Cat Valentine phase. Oh, it's so embarrassing. But I, like, was so
You remind me of Cat Valentine.
oh,
So
no.
I'm okay.
But I think I've had that said to me a lot, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank
That's not
God
a
they did
bad
not meet
thing.
me." I think that it's just like I think I've always I've had how do I say this? My voice, I've had to, like, intentionally be more soft spoken and be more, like, up here and, like, talk like this and not try to sound ditzy or in any way, shape, or form, but it was because I was told I needed to protect my vocal cords from getting nodules and stuff when I was in college because I used to talk in vocal fry all the time, and my voice has a much lower tone naturally because no one taught me any different. Um, so I talked like that for years. Even as like a really young kid, my speaking voice was super, super low. And I was damaging my vocal cords by doing that. But yeah, so when I was a freshman in high school, it was intentional to like try to be Cat Valentine.
Okay.
And, like, when Ariana Grande was going through even a phase where she was trying to discover who Ariana Grande was without Cat Valentine, but she was still kind of, like, dressing like Cat and doing all that stuff, I was like,
Yep.
"Oh my gosh, this is literally me, like, I'm gonna do this." And so that's what I did. But now it's kind of like I guess it's, like, lingered through, but this is so who I am too. I'm not trying to be Cat Valentine because I'm Domenica Coka, like but Yeah,
Oh,
it's I've had a lot of people be like, "You remind me of Cat Valentine." And I'm like, "Oh,
I feel I
okay."
see. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I could say you could tell me that you're a combination of Tori Vega and Cat Valentine, and I would see,
Oh,
and I
thanks.
could see both. I could see both.
Thanks,
But
thanks.
hey, some people were singing "Genie in a Bottle" and Miss Jones, and other people were, illegally leaving the state. So I mean, it's okay.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah. So, but nonetheless, a lot of inspirations to help you
Yes.
into, and one of the things I love about music, I love singing. I stink at it. Not my when I'm in the
That's
car.
okay.
When I'm in the car, I'm belting. And
Absolutely,
I
as you
don't
should.
and I don't care. But although some friends are like, hey, I
They're
wish
probably
I
like, "Oh my gosh, please shut up."
no, and they're like, you never know any of the dang words, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I do. But
Oh, no, that's the worst. You gotta know the
I
lyrics if you're
do
gonna
know the
belt it.
lyrics. I'm not one of those people that go, and then you just say the part loudly. Like, no, I'm not one of those people. But, um, on to The Voice now.
Yeah.
When did that getting on that show become a reality for you, and what was the process of getting there like?
So it's a long story, to be honest. I knew when I was like 15 or 16 that I was like, I'm not going to be another bedroom singer. Like, I need to do something if
Yeah,
this is what I want to actually do for the rest of my life. Um, and I had been leading worship at my church for a good I like because like I said, I went to a small private Christian school. So I was leading at my school and I was leading at my church and I loved it. And but I knew that, like, I wanted to venture out from just, like, singing at church and stuff, but I knew that I had a very strong foundation, like, having that like, if you wanna take away, like, the worship aspect, like, I had a little bit of a performance background with that. I loved being on stage, but, obviously, in that way, I was singing to an audience of one and not just singing I wasn't singing about love in a different way, you know what I mean?
right.
Um but I felt like God had really placed this, opportunity for me to really step out there and do something like The Voice, and so The Voice was actually the first of all the reality TV shows that I've been a part of, because I've done
Wait, you've
all
done
of them.
multiple?
Yes, I've done all of them. So when I was 16 or 17, I did the cattle call, open calls kind of thing. My mom and I flew to Philly and stayed at a hotel the next morning, did the open calls, got in the line. I mean, there are millions of people there, right? And I was very fortunate enough to get a call back. And so I got the red card and I had to fly back to Philadelphia 2 days later to go to a studio and do that callback. And that was in front of the casting director. And that time it was with whatever record label they were linked with at the time, because now it's Republic Records, but I think it was Universal before. And it was like a representative from Universal. And I just remember singing songs that totally were songs that I picked thinking that that's what they wanted to hear
Yeah.
instead of like what really portrayed me as an artist. And you do like an interview with that. Like if you pass through that round, you do like an interview. And the interview process, I was just not myself. I was trying to be exactly what they wanted me to be. Like I was super bubbly, super like, yeah, just like did it. I wasn't myself. And my mom immediately knew.
Hmm.
And we got back to the hotel and she was like, you don't have to be somebody else just to be on television.
Yeah.
Like if they have to love you for you, like you and I was like, "Mom, like I know what I'm doing." Like, like I was I know everything, like whatever. And then my mom literally felt this like discernment of like, "Oh no, like I don't," because we would always pray, God, let your will be done. Like if this is what you want for Dominica's life right now, if not all this stuff, don't let it happen if it's not meant to be.
Right. Right.
Um, and my mom just kind of saw now, obviously, looking back, I was very immature. I did not know what this industry offered. Nonetheless, like, my parents had no idea what the entertainment industry could offer, and I didn't get past the next round, and I was so bummed, but immediately just, like I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna try this again," but my mom was like, "Okay, but this time, like, be you, right?"
Yep.
And I was like, "Okay." So I did it again, and this time it was in New York City. did the whole thing, and I got cut in the same place that I got cut the first time, and I was like, "Okay, I did it right this time, like, I blah, blah, blah. I chose the right songs, I was myself, like, why didn't it work?" And again, like, now I look back and I cannot picture 17, 18-year-old Domenica being on The Voice because there was a lot that went on when I was actually on The Voice that really took so much growing up to do to be able to sustain and feel secure in myself. I had I was a very confident person, like, in high school, but in reality, like, I didn't really know who Dominica was. I was still living under the shadow of my brother and the things that he went through that, like, everybody at my church, like, knew me as Mateo's sister because of, like, the things that happened. And I say my church a lot because, like, my church and my school were the same place. Um, so I was there like 6 or 7 days a week. Um, but and so I had a very strong knit community, but, like, everyone always knew our story based on, like, the things that my brother went through, which, of course, like, God was, like, so great during all of that, so it makes sense, but, like, I had a very negative perspective towards that. But then I decided I was like, "I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna finish high school, and I'm gonna graduate," and then I did American Idol. I was offered the opportunity to do American Idol. I don't really know how these people found me, but a casting producer oh, actually, no, I take that back. I sent in a video. I did not hear from them for the longest time, and then a casting producer emailed me and was like, "We would love for you to audition for American Idol."
Oh, that's cool though.
Yeah. Um, I was a freshman, so I was 18, 19 years old. I There was a miscommunication to where I thought I was actually auditioning in front of the judges, but I wasn't. So I got sent home the day of my audition, but thank the Lord it happened because I had 101 fever that day. Like, it was just not gonna work out. I was not gonna give my best at all. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I look back and I'm like, thank you. I did not need that. But then I
I
was
need you're like
offered
I needed to be sick. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, like, I really need to be sick that day. But then, like, that same day, they were like, "Well, we also do America's Got Talent. Would you wanna do America's Got Talent?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, I'm gonna do anything, right? Any
Right.
opportunity, and I fully believe, like, if an opportunity is set in front of you, like, why unless you're, like, super certain, like, you should not do that, like, why not?
Yeah, why
There's
limit
nothing
yourself?
worth losing. Yeah. And so I did America's Got Talent my freshman year as well. And that was an interesting experience because of the way that the show works. The judges, I didn't sign any. I think I can say this. It's been so long. But in other words, they didn't pick me to actually be on television, even though I had made it through the show. Like, when I auditioned in front of the judges and such. But they didn't actually pick me to, like, be on television. So I didn't actually they never aired me. And so the same casting producers were like, "Well, let's try American Idol again." And so that was my sophomore year. I did American Idol. I auditioned in front of the judges, got the 3 yeses, got the golden ticket to Hollywood, and then I got cut in Hollywood Week. I That was, like, the first time I ever really experienced what the entertainment industry is like. And all those if you've watched American Idol, like, that during Hollywood Week, like, people are sleeping on the floor and, like, people are exhausted, like, all this stuff. I used to think, "Oh my gosh, this is so fake." Nope, that is, like, so accurate, such an accurate depiction of what Hollywood Week looks like. People are exhausted because you wake up at, like, 5 in the morning to, like, get on a bus to, like, get to the venue that you have to be at, and you're just waiting and waiting, and you're exhausted, and, like, you wanna wake up your voice, but at the same time, you don't wanna tire it out, like, it's a lot. But it was a taste of the industry, and I was like, "I know nothing about this industry." So that's when I switched my major, 'cause at my first years at Belmont, I was a commercial voice major, and then I switched so it was like a full-time music student, and then I switched to creative and entertainment industries with a music minor, so I was still performing, but I was understanding the entertainment industry from, like, a business/creative side.
Okay, yeah.
Which was I think it was the best decision for me. A part of me wished that I would have been a songwriting major, but you live and you learn. This is exactly what was supposed to happen for me. And but yeah, and then I didn't do any shows at all. I tried to get on The Voice again my junior year of college, but that's when COVID hit. And the same day, this is like a side story, but the same day that I received the no from The Voice, I my phone was blowing up and I thought it was my friends like texting me and I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody, like all this stuff.
Yeah, I gotta
And
know.
then
Yeah.
yeah, like I just let me be by myself, like whatever, like let me because I was so that was like the best I had ever auditioned with like The Voice.
Like you felt good about it.
Oh my gosh, that was like so unapologetically myself. Like I was these are my songs, like these are whatever, this is me. And I felt so ready because I had taken such a long break from The Voice. And when I received the no that I was not chosen to move forward to actually like go into like the blind auditions and such, um, my phone was blowing up like I mentioned, and it was because Joshua Bassett retweeted me. And I had done like a little cover of one of his songs before any of his music was out, and he saw it and retweeted me. And I had a lot of people message me, and that is literally the story of how truly I say this, how my now producer and friend Sanka, when I love her, is how we met because she saw that retweet and reached out to me and was like, "I'm a songwriter and a producer and an engineer. Like, I wanna work with you." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I'm also a singer-songwriter. Like, I want like, I" yeah. But I was really like, there's a whole thing about that, but, like, it was immediately, like, we had a Zoom and we, instantly became best friends because it was so evident how well we were gonna work together, and that's how my first song, Alone, came to be was because of Joshua Bassett. So, thanks, Joshua.
Shout out Joshua. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the day of these blind auditions, right?
Yeah.
So you finally get in. You're
Oh, I didn't
casted.
even get to that point. So sorry.
No, no, no. That's
There's so
okay.
much backstory that I'm like, "Oh, well, I did this and I did this and I did" but yeah, with The Voice, I was let me just give you really quickly. The Voice, I was emailed in the summer of last year and was asked if I wanted to audition for The Voice. And I was like, "Oh my gosh," I this was like them coming to me, and I was like, "Absolutely, like, I would do it." And I did the whole 9 yards. I kinda did the same things that I did last time, but this I guess it was just a little different. And then I got a call saying that I was invited to LA, which was to prepare for the blind auditions, which
Nice.
that's the that's now we're getting to where you were gonna ask me something.
Yeah. No. All I was gonna ask you is I. You're too
Yeah,
funny.
sorry, I talk a lot.
That's what I'm here for. I said this to you when I said this to you in our first message. I don't care how long this is. I know you've got other
Yeah.
obligations, but if we need to go ahead
Oh, no, no, we're
and
good.
schedule
We're
a
good with
round two,
time.
we're good. So the day of the blind auditions, I've talked to some people
Yeah,
in the past. They get up
yeah.
at like random times, like 3, 4. Was it the same for you? And when you were preparing, what was going on in Domenica's head?
Okay, so I think I woke up at 5 that morning because I
Okay, so
had,
you were
like,
the later
a
one.
yeah, I was because I had to do, like, film stuff with my family and audition the same day, and I think I was the only one that season that had to do both the same things on the same day. So I was very exhausted. But I mean, but, like, oh my gosh, like because 'cause you're not guaranteed a blind audition when you're there. And but I was like, "Yes, this is my moment. I've waited 6 years for this, like, I'm so excited, blah, blah." 7 years, and I remember just, like, being so ready. I was so excited because the song that I sang, "When I Look at You" by Miley, was such a prominent song. I mean, it came out in 2009, which was the same year that my brother's 3rd time with cancer, was when he relapsed, and that was a song that, like, meant so much to me, and so did The Climb. I was oh, I'm a huge Miley fan, like, Miley was I mean, Hannah Montana was such a oh my gosh, a monumental moment, I
Oh, that
think,
show was
in a
amazing.
lot of our right,
Yeah.
a lot of our lives, and so I loved Miley growing up, and so I was very excited, and I knew that there was something different about this experience that I was already encountering so many different conversations and opportunities, and I just, like, felt such a confirmation that this was exactly what I needed to do. Not necessarily The Voice in general, but, like or specifically, I mean, just, like, music in general.
Yeah.
Um, and that was, like, the biggest gift, I think, from that experience. But yeah, I woke up and I just remember being so, aware of not wanting to tire out my voice, but also at the same time wanting to wake up my voice and there are things that unfortunately I'm not allowed to talk about, with what happened with The Voice, but I just remember, being on that stage and being like, "This is all I want." And then when things were happening that, uh, I'm not allowed to say because they made such a big deal about us not saying things. I just remember being like, "No, no, 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 like, I wanna start over, I wanna start over, I wanna start over. This is not how it was supposed to go." Um, and then when none of the chairs turned, I remember, like, it being like a surrender of being like, "Okay, I've been through this rejection again, like, this isn't something new." But the coaches were so supportive,
Yeah.
and there was so much that they obviously didn't air for time purposes on the during my episode, but there wasn't a single moment of, like, doubt of why I was here.
Hmm.
They were so encouraging and just, like, reminding me that I deserve to be on that stage, and so kind and so respectful, and I just left there being so uplifted, even though I was so disappointed with the outcome because that was not the outcome that I was expecting at all. Not because I was like I thought that I was this best singer ever, it was just, like, because I knew I put in the work and I knew that I was ready. Um, but I left there and I was like, "I'm fine, like, I'm totally fine. I'm used to this rejection, like, I'm all this stuff," and I kinda pushed everything under the rug, because I also thought, "Oh, they're probably not gonna air my audition, and I'm gonna be okay."
Yeah.
And then when I found out that they were gonna air my audition, I, like, prayed about it because I was like, "God, like, if this can be an opportunity for me to, like, have conversations with people that bring back this, like, bring the conversation back to you, like, absolutely. But I think it's so easy to get caught up in your own pride and not want people to see you "fail," quote, unquote.
Yeah.
And I was in a place like that where I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, the world is gonna see me sing, and they're gonna think that that's how I sound like." And even though it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, like, I just remember obviously thinking like, "I know that I can do better, like, I know that I can do better." Um, but I just it brings me back to, like I said, those conversations that I had, those experiences that I had when I was out in LA, that it was such a confirmation that, like, God has placed me here for a reason, and God has given me this gift for a reason to be a vessel for his kingdom, and, like, I don't know, I just I had such, like, amazing stories from that trip that I'm just like, wow, it's like a rejoicing, feeling and just very very much joy in the midst of a lot of anxiety too, because I had a lot of panic attacks and anxiety attacks when I was there because we were isolated because of COVID.
Yep.
And I was never used to being alone and, like, being alone in my thoughts and, like, letting lies creep in and tell me that I wasn't good enough or that I wasn't gonna be a good example to people or whatever, for whatever reason, like, just the smallest things, like, I would create such a narrative in my brain, and it was such a powerful moment to realize, like, "Oh my gosh, like, our minds are so strong and they can
Yeah.
make something up, and your body." My therapist would told me that, like, when I project and, like, I start to create a narrative in my head, our bodies don't know the difference between, like, our brain won't know the difference between reality and, it being, like, something you made up. So our
Right.
bodies are going to react as if it were real. And so, there were things that I went through that had absolutely nothing to do with whatever I was going through, but I just was like, "Oh my gosh, but what if this? And what if that? And, like, what if I'm not gonna be a good example to a little girl?" For literally, I have no idea. Nothing was happening to where, like, I could have been a bad example or whatever, but I cared so much. It's because I care too much about what people think, I think. Not I think, I know. And sometimes that's not very good, especially when you're doing the right thing, like,
Yeah.
you know? And I just would, like, start to believe these lies, and it was like, I would call my mom at 3 in the morning LA time, which was, like, what, 6, 7 AM, or not even that, yeah, like, very early in the morning in Florida, because, like, I needed to, like, I was spiraling, and my mom would pray for me, and I would start to calm down a bit more, and I was learning so much about myself there, and I look back and like I said, I just look back with so much joy, and I'm like, "Wow, that was really hard and a really difficult season for me," but I look back with so much joy and so much great gratitude, like, truly.
And you did do great. And
Oh,
all, and I
thanks.
feel like where our own biggest critic. I feel like I'm the
Yes.
same way. I feel like I am so hard on myself, but yet I'm so fruitful and positive
Yeah.
with other people. And you are correct. Like, it is incredible in a way how our brains can really create narratives that can either make us incredibly insecure or make us incredibly secure and
Oh,
confident.
totally.
So but again, you look great. I thought you had great stage presence when you were
Thanks.
performing. So
Thanks.
although the cards didn't go the way that you wanted it to, you have other opportunities,
Yeah.
and like you said, you were able to have even that moment with the coaches in which they were giving you insight on how to be a better artist and how to, which is
Yeah.
ultimately, above all, that's ultimately what happens on the show regardless. So you
Mhm.
ultimately ended up getting, although you didn't get the full experience, you still got
Yeah.
a good experience because you
1000%.
you were able to have that with the coaches. So I mean, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself,
Thank
because I
thank
definitely
you.
think that it's not easy to go out on national television and perform, and you
Yeah.
did it. And although
Thanks.
you realize it within yourself, oh, I could have done this better, you still
Yeah.
did a great you still did a
Thank
great
you.
job.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your EP, okay? To you,
Yeah.
recently released. Can you
Yeah. A
share?
week ago.
Yeah, I know, really recently.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I talked to you about it off camera, and I said
Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing at the gym. For
Yeah.
the people who haven't checked out, just check out the lyrics. I mean, it is very compelling.
Thank
Talk
you.
to me about some of the behind the scenes experiences on getting there, because you worked on it for months. Whenever you work on a project, you work on it for a long time. It is not an overnight thing. So,
Yes.
what were some of those experiences like, working with teams and people to help you get to that EP publishing to the point that where it's at
Yeah.
now?
So I started writing these songs in November. I started writing 24. They're all, like, written in the exact order of the track list, which is so funny.
Yeah, it's like a note. Yeah,
Um
it's so cool.
Oh, yeah, it was I mean, it's so intentional, and there's so many, like, little Easter eggs that I would love to share with you if we get to that point, of talking specifically about tracks and stuff, but, um yeah, I was in, like, I was at work, and I had my laptop out, and I had a moment where I was, like, not doing something, or I was waiting for something, I'm not really sure, but I started writing the lyrics to 24 on my birthday, and, uh, and then I picked up the guitar, like, a couple days later, because when it's your birthday, like, you don't my mom was in town, and so, um, I didn't have enough, like, an alone time, and I immediately sent the verse and the chorus to my producer and friend Sanka, who I've worked on every single project with. And I was like, I think I wrote a song, or I'm in the process of writing a song, but I'm never going to release this. Like, this is just pure therapy for me.
Hmm.
And she was like, why? And I was like, because this is like a part of my heart that I don't want to tell the world, because it's so and it gets even more vulnerable the more you listen to the songs and stuff, and so I was like, "No, no, no, like, that's way too scary, like, this is so personal, this is based on, like, my first ever love experience, and, like, no way, like, I'm not gonna do that." And so then it was kind of coming to a place where I was like, there's nothing wrong with sharing that to the world, especially when you're doing it from such a pure place, because by no means was I doing this to, like, get back at someone for breaking my heart, in other words, at all. This was, like, purely coming out of a place of love, truly, an
And
outpouring of love
compelling
to
storytelling.
yeah, and I knew that this my mom would always tell me, 'cause my mom let me be such a broken record to her. My mom would always tell me, "Domenica, at any age, anyone can relate to these words."
Completely
And
agree.
yeah, and it doesn't matter, if you've been the one that's been broken up with, or you broke someone's heart, like, everyone has been in this place of thought, you know? And so I continued writing songs. I was in Miami for the holidays, and I just remember writing. I brought my guitar home, and I just, like, was writing that entire time, and I finished 24 there, and I Saw It All was written there. This Thing We Call Love, I Saw It All, and This Thing We Call Love, I started in Florida, And then I knew that Sanka was gonna be coming back to she was coming because she lives in St. Louis. She was coming to Nashville, and so I was like, "Great, we're gonna start, like, we're gonna go into the studio, like, we're gonna start these songs," and it's so crazy because I told myself, I was like, "March, like, we're releasing this EP in March." And then March came along and nothing happened, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, not even I think at that point, I think this thing we call love wasn't even finished, like, written, and production, I think only notes page was done production wise, and which or and Love Domenica. So it was, I was like, oh my gosh, like I wanted this out now, like especially since The Voice had come out. I was like, great, like once The Voice is over, I'm gonna like like put my music out
Yeah,
because I
invest
have
in
that
this.
like
Yep.
launch, and it didn't happen that way, and I was so stressed. And then April came along, then May came along, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like why isn't this happening?" But then it ended up being June, and it was so perfect because I think that I'd had enough time to like really listen to these songs and remove songs that I thought were going to be on the EP and ended up not being on the EP. And being so confident in the fact that like this was all individually like their stories in itself, but all one big story, and everything made sense. And I felt like I had said what I wanted to say, everything that I wanted to say. I just like was very fortunate. But I got to work with my best friends, which was the biggest gift, I think, which allowed me to use such a difficult season of my life. And again, it was kind of like The Voice where I look back and I have so much joy, that I so easily could have turned into not a happy time because like no one likes to get broken up with. Like no one likes that sadness, that hurt is so real. And the more love and support and the more my friends, my mom, like people that let me be this broken record to, like the more I understood and the more I was like obviously leaning on the Lord and he was my strength and all this stuff. But going back to like my friends, like not only is this like my fourth project with Sanka, but I got to meet other people through her because she's like the networking queen. So I got to meet Drew, who he did drums for me and like co-produced 24. Rich, who also co-produced 24 and was like vocal engineer for I don't remember which track, but like he goes back and forth from Nashville to St. Louis, so I would see him pretty often. And then Thomas did my remix for Sweeter. He got to be a huge part of this and did with Notes page and then I got to work with my best friend Grace Elizondo, who helped me write Notes page. I saw it all in this thing we call Love, and it's so nice to like step into a when you know you're going to go into a co-write where like you don't have to explain any backstory because she knew everything. Like we would send each other like 20-minute voice notes, like going back and forth of just like how we were feeling because like yeah, like it was just very relatable. And she was my backbone, so like being able to do that with her was the biggest gift too because she's an incredible songwriter. There were so many times where like especially with like Notes page, I knew exactly what I wanted to write about. And she is so great at condensing detail without leaving a single detail out. And she helped me exactly say what I wanted to say without feeling like I was leaving something out of it. Um, and and yeah, just helping me conclude. I saw it all and this thing we call love completely just like transforming it because it was very different from what it actually ended up being. And yeah, just like in general, just being able to like do that with your best friends and new friendships and then have a release party here in Nashville and have my people from St. Louis come and
Yeah.
celebrate all together was very full circle, like all my worlds colliding. And I feel really honored to have a platform to where I can be honest with my feelings and receive such incredible feedback of um bravery.
Right. Yeah.
I think sometimes I cut myself a little short by realizing that there's a lot of bravery that it goes for sharing something so personal like that. Just because I'm like, but everyone goes through this, but like actually putting it out there's a different thing. Um, so yeah, I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful and I feel so loved, and again, like, this was such an outpouring of love in a place where, like, I wasn't able to pour that love anymore to that
Right.
person. I was able to put it in my songs and it be such a therapeutic experience for me, and, like, and look back and, like, love all of it, you know?
Yeah, and for you, it is one of those things where it's like hard. It's hard in general to talk about
Yeah.
feelings, and it's hard
Yeah.
to broadcast them.
Yeah.
But like you, I think you said I think you alluded to that your mother said it. It is a valid statement in that everyone at some point in their life has
Mhm.
gone through something
Yeah.
similar, or they can relate, and so your lyrics are helping that individual. And that's one thing I really want to stress. I highly recommend anyone listening to check out the lyrics, cuz the lyrics are they're just very passionate, and I enjoy that in an artist, personally
Thank
speaking.
you.
I'm
Yeah,
always the
same.
type of person that's like, yeah, but you got to listen to the words. You got to hear what the
Yeah.
words are saying. So,
Yeah.
I definitely think that you did a great job
Thank you.
as an artist. There are days where you just hit a wall.
Totally.
What does Dominica do on those days that she hits a wall?
She's really hard on herself. She's like, "Are you sure you're doing the right thing?" Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that happens, and then I'm like, "Okay, okay, I'm gonna step away from this for a second."
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna step away because I don't wanna write something completely just because I'm forcing to write something. So I'll step away, and then I'll come back, and I'll look at it and be like, "Oh, wait, that wasn't as bad as I thought," and then go from there.
When you have a
But
clear mind, yeah.
yeah, totally. I think you have to because if you're just like forcing something to come out because like you think it needs to come out, like it's not going to be very organic or very genuine either. So, yeah, I step away.
Nice. I think that that's the best thing for you,
Mhm.
because when you're so revved up on those emotions, it's very easy to get lost in the sauce. You know, it's very easy to get lost in the discombobulated emotions and
Yeah.
thought process. So I'm glad that you're able to take a step back and just,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
and show yourself a little grace. Not be so hard on yourself.
Absolutely.
Be patient.
Absolutely.
Be patient with yourself.
Mhm.
One of the things that helped me was, somebody said this to me. I forget who, but they said, talk to yourself and give yourself advice the way that you would a friend, your best friend.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that has helped me so much, because
Yeah.
there were times where I'd be like, I would never talk to my best friend like this. I would never
Yeah.
would. And so when they need me, when they are in those rock bottom stages,
Mhm.
and it's helped me a lot. So I highly recommend that, because it's definitely just, we need to be more loving towards one another and show ourselves a little bit more grace, because we're all
Absolutely.
human.
Totally.
Do you have any other projects coming up? Now, I know you. I know you. If you can't spoil anything, that's fine. I respect that. And I know you just came out with a great EP. But do you have any other
Mhm.
projects in the work?
My producer was like, "I'm ready to start an album," and I was like, "Ooh, okay." Um, I think at the moment, there are so many songs that I wanna write, but at the same time, like, I wanna step away from writing just for now, just so that I can actually enjoy, uh, my EP and, like, perform it in Nashville and, like, areas around here, um, just because I think that there is so there's so much to say with I think as an artist, like, you can't forget like, it doesn't just end there, like, when you release music, like, there's so much more that you have to do once you've released stuff, um, but I don't know, I don't know if, like I hope to release something by the end of this year, I definitely have some things coming up, more like visual stuff happening,
Okay.
um uh, but I don't know if I should say. But yeah, I mean, I this year I stepped into this year and I was like, I'm going to be way more creative than I was in the past. And all of it was due to my like own doing. Like I would wanted to do other things instead of doing my music. And I realized how much I missed my music. I was like, "No, no, no, like, I need to go back and, like, do that," and so I dedicated this year to music and acting, and so I think that, um, I definitely feel like this year is that year. So, and I mean, it's obvious because like with this EP, I never thought, like I said at the beginning, I never thought I was going to release these songs.
Yep.
And then I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, like we did that. So
And you got a positive response. So for now, it's wait and see.
yeah, wait and see.
Well, when you do, we're gonna need you
Yeah,
get you
you'll
back on.
okay, great.
What's one piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to be in your shoes of learning music, getting into music, that type of stuff? Just one piece of advice.
Oh my gosh.
I know there's so much, right?
S There's so much because it's like you could get to the nitty-gritty of, like, the actual industry or, like, an o overall, uh, feeling of just, so I'm gonna give what Tori Kelly told me,
Okay,
and, Tori Kelly told me that the biggest thing she learned was to not compare herself because there's always gonna be someone that's bigger and better,
I love that.
and but there's no one like you. And, she said that once I mean, it's so true when people say comparison is a thief of joy.
Agreed.
So I would say there's never gonna be another person like you out there, and you should always stay true to who you are. And I mean, I've learned that throughout my all of my experiences, was the beauty and the outcome of actually being true to yourself is so much worth it compared to trying to be somebody else in order to please the other person. It's not gonna last either.
No,
So I think by staying true to yourself and honoring yourself and the gift that you know that you have, like you're gonna and another thing is like success is defined by you. Like success is not defined by what the music industry says because it's that changes every single day. And because to me, like success is being able to do what I love every single day and live off of that, but, like,
yeah,
I'm not out here trying to be the next Ariana Grande, like, if fame comes, then fame comes, but, like, I'm not seeking that, and I think that if you're seeking that, you're kind of doing it for the wrong reasons, like, you should do it because, like, you love this and you want to share something with the world, but yeah,
that's beautifully said.
thanks,
I love that piece of advice, and I agree
thanks.
with that. There's that because I've heard that too. That the thief is the
The
comparison.
comparison is
Yeah,
a thief of joy.
yeah,
Yeah,
because it's true. When you do that, it allows insecurities. It's
totally.
just not a conducive environment.
Yeah,
Ready for some rapid fire questions?
absolutely.
All right, let's do this. How long can you hold your breath?
I've done this before because I did a project on it for lung capacity. Like, I don't know, a long time because I'm a vocalist.
I can't hold my breath that long. I feel like I'm like no matter how much I try,
Oh, no,
I
I'm a
just
very competitive person, so I will, like if someone is like, "Let's do it," I'm like, "Okay."
all right. Let's do it then. Ready?
Are you serious?
No, no,
Okay.
because
I was
no,
like
because I
we would sit in silence for quite a while, so
and admittingly, I'd be like this.
oh, so you'd
So
be breathing. So you'd
yeah,
lie.
because I'd know that not to mess with a black belt. All
Yeah,
right.
true.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Okay, so, I'm not gonna tell a story about it, but I don't like people who lie a lot, but it's, like silly lies to where they, like, think that they are true. I had someone in high school that was like that, and I would bug me the wrong way because they knew that I knew that they were lying, but they kept going with it, and it drove me insane.
So do you mean like if somebody's playing a joke on you and they keep going with the lie of the joke? Is that it? Or do you mean somebody who's literally like
Like, they're lying, like,
fabricating?
they're lying about, like, an assignment that they 1000% did not do, and they're, like, trying to convince the whole class, like, "Oh, yeah, I like, my dog ate my homework," and I'm like, "No one's gonna believe you," but he goes on and on and on. Oh, I hate that.
He's like, well, you don't understand. The dog catapulted
Yeah,
from the
and I'm
yeah.
like, "No one believes you." Like, I hate that. I'm like, "No!" Like, ugh.
Okay, yeah. Look at that. I
Yeah,
could see that that's not
don't like
at
it.
a later date. You'll have to tell that story.
Okay.
Do you pick your nose when no one is watching?
Ew, no,
Don't lie.
no.
That's
I am not like, if I have like, this is so gross. I will go to the bathroom and get a piece of tissue and, like, do that.
so you've never once like been like, oh, I got a
I mean, maybe as
little.
a kid, but not like I'm not just gonna, like, go digging up
Okay,
there.
I'm not saying digging for gold, but like if you
No, I don't think so. Oh, no.
All right, all right. Well, we'll have to fact check that one.
Okay.
I do you think double dipping at social functions is acceptable?
No.
Okay. All right. Neither do I. That's gross and unsanitary.
Yeah, gross.
What is your best cartoon impression?
Um, it's not an impression. I think it was, I truly believe I'm not very good at, like, impressions.
Okay.
I think that my dream has always been to be a voice actor because I would love to be a cartoon myself. But I think, Mabel from Gravity Falls is literally who I was as a kid, and I would, she's just like my spirit animal. So I'm just gonna say that even though that's not what you were asking me, Mabel from Gravity Falls. Like, I was that, like, dorky, but, like, super confident kinda kid who, like, knew what she wanted and was obsessed with boy bands, and I was not boy crazy like she was. Maybe with, like, celebrities I was, but not, like, real boys. But, yeah, I just love her. I love her personality, and I was that.
Okay. All right. Are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
I'm a tea drinker, I'm not a coffee drinker.
Okay.
Sadly, I wish. I love the smell of it.
Of coffee?
Yes, but it's just the jitters, it kills me.
Oh, and I not saying that you do, but I've heard that like for people who like suffer with anxiety, it like makes
Yeah,
it
that's exactly it.
it
I
makes it
can't
worse.
differentiate it.
Yeah, for me, I'm blessed that I don't struggle with it. So like I unfortunately I never was a coffee drinker. I always hated it until I started
Yeah,
like going to the gym more, and then I'm like I need
yeah,
caffeine. Like otherwise I can't do this workout. All right,
yes.
last couple things here. Okay,
Okay,
so I have a chat pack here.
okay,
Okay, I'm gonna pull out two questions. All right,
okay,
at random. See. All right,
okay,
and you have to answer at least one of them or both
okay.
if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
All right.
hopefully I can do both.
Hopefully they're good ones. Yeah, right. Only if you're comfortable, of course.
Absolutely.
In your opinion, what is the most challenging part about being a kid? So that's the first about being so your upbringing. So there's one.
Okay.
And then the second one is if you could bring back to life any fictional character from a book or a movie, whom would you choose? Oh, I've never seen whom. Okay. That's how you use whom.
Um, so the first one was the can you repeat the question for the first one again?
Of course. In your opinion, what is the most challenging part about being a kid?
In, like, my childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was I kind of alluded to it, but, like, I
Yeah.
think my brother, his cancer and all of that, it was hard because the most challenging thing for me was I struggled so much to be very strong for my family, and in reality, all that did was build up a wall, for me, and I just kind of felt like I had to be the strong one always, and I never let my guard down, and that uh, built up a lot of issues that, like, I not issues, but, like, a lot of things that, like, I did not want to talk to anybody with, and I remember when the first time I'd, like, talked to my mom, because like, I would always be praised for not being a jealous kid, for my brother receiving all this attention because I understood that my brother was dying. Like, I
Right.
knew that my brother had to have all this attention on him, but I'm not gonna lie and say that there were times where I felt very lonely
Hmm.
but I knew that my parents loved me so well and handled that in the best way that they could, but, like, they're human, and there were moments where, like, they couldn't offer me what I was needing or wanting, and but they had to put all the focus on my brother, and, like, but it was mainly, like, outside people where I struggled being known as just Domenica rather than, like, how I mentioned earlier, Mateo's sister, and I struggled a lot and didn't know how to vocalize that, so I tried to find things that would separate me from my brother, and it was a very unhealthy way to deal with, trying to figure out my identity, um, and and then I went through, like, a whole, like, emotional experience where I was like, "Oh my gosh, my identity is that I'm God's daughter, and that's enough." Like, that's literally enough. And I'm loved by him unconditionally, and so, yeah, I think that that was the hardest thing where I was, like, an unraveling through many, many years.
Yeah.
And then the second question, a fictional character that I would want to bring to life from a book, did
Or
you
yeah,
say?
a book or a movie.
Like, bring into this actual world?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question because I don't know. Because, like I said, I watched a lot of cartoons growing up as a kid, and I read a lot. Like, I loved reading.
Patrick Star.
Um,
No, no.
I'm sorry?
I said Patrick Star, but
No, I literally was gonna say probably a SpongeBob character, but I oh my gosh, who's, like, someone that I wish, like, was real? I don't know, this is a really difficult question, um, but oh my gosh, I'm gonna, like, think this question, like, later and be like, "Oh, I should have said that." Um, probably Sandy Cheeks. I think
okay.
she just would have been really I think we would have been great pals.
You
Like,
two,
I mean, the
you
karate,
yeah, the
yeah.
karate. You would have bonded over the karate. Yeah.
I think I love SpongeBob, but I think he would have annoyed me a little bit if he was real.
Mhm.
I love him, don't get me wrong, like, I love the guy, but I think he would have been like a little brother that I'm like, "Oh, I love you, but, like, stop," you know?
Yeah, like enough is
Um,
enough. Yep.
yeah, like, enough is enough, and I love Patrick. I mean, when I met them at Universal, I was like, "This is
You,
everything to me,"
you felt like
but
a kid.
oh, I feel like a kid all the time, but yes.
So do I. I mean, like people always say to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I say, "I don't know," because it hasn't happened yet. So
Oh,
I
that's funny.
yeah, that's why I
Being a
said
kid at heart, I think, is one of the best gifts.
it
I
is.
never wanna lose that.
No, it is. I love being able to laugh at things that, like, when we joked early in the episode, and I said, "Oh, I have the mindset of a first grader." Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I know how to differentiate
Right,
between,
right.
like, but like, I love just being able to be like, you know what? I love being a goof, and today I don't
Yeah,
want to do much, so I'm just gonna get chalk and draw on ground and draw a picture, and
that's great.
nobody's gonna judge me because
Exactly.
yeah. So,
Love
um,
that.
where can people find you to connect with you on the socials, follow what you're
Yeah.
doing, stay up to date on the latest projects you've got going on?
My Instagram is at Domenica Coka, and so is my TikTok. I have a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel, I used to be not super consistent, but way more consistent than I am now. And I think that I put like major projects out there, like my music video for Alone was there, and all of that. So, which my brother directed because he's an incredible visual. Like he's just, I'm so grateful to have that from him. But yeah, TikTok, Instagram. I'm not very active on Twitter. Um,
Twitter.
but huh?
I said Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter. We love Twitter. It gives me a lot of anxiety, so I don't like to be on that app. Um, oh my gosh. And then you can listen to any of my stuff on any DSPs wherever you listen to music. Like I'll be there. And yeah, I love when people, like, like, on TikTok lives. I don't do them as often anymore because people can be really creepy,
Yeah.
but I've had really, like, great responses, like, to songs there, and people can be really, really nice or the complete opposite. But, yeah, I'm very grateful for social media. I mean, I think that that's what is the turning point of music right now, or the entertainment industry as a whole, but I'm in all the places.
Well, we only focus on positivity, so
Yeah.
hey, or she'll come at you. Well, Dominica, it was a pleasure and an absolute blast. I can't wait
Thank
to
you
have
so
you on
much.
again. I appreciate
Yeah.
you so much for taking the time out of your day and stopping by the Raise Reflection podcast.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel. It was truly an honor and a privilege to be here. So I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, my friends, thank you so much for listening. And as always, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I'm the male Oprah, and I love you all.